after dinner. I hope you enjoyed the lasagna. That's good to hear. For our second to last speaker, we have Rinat from Level 9 in Kiev. Yeah, you're in Kiev. He's worked on Schoolbank and is now working on Startpagina. So no bad mistakes about Startpagina running on the IBM Junior. Because this guy is rebuilding it in Python with all the latest standards.
I started from kids and teens, so older and older audience.
Maybe Schoolbank even has an older audience than Startpagina, but I don't know for sure. Please give a round of applause for Rinat about serverless with Python.
Yeah. Goedenavond. My name is Rinat. Thank you for nice introduction. Today I want to make a talk about serverless development with Python. As Miguel mentioned at the very beginning, it has become hype topic in nowadays, and almost for 2 years it's very popular among developers. So I decided to get more experience with cutting edge technologies and try to use it with Python. So I think for now everybody knows that AWS Lambda is seems nice technology that can run code without any provisioning of servers. It scales automatically and looks to be a good thing. But when I started to develop with AWS Lambda, I faced a lot of questions. First, how to deploy, how to log, how to create API, how to add SSL certificate, how to connect database, packages, routing, and so on, so on, so on. So I decided not to invent a bicycle, and I hoped that somebody already invented something that I can use, and I just pay my attention to look for any framework who can solve all my problems that I faced. And I found very nice micro framework Chalice that was developed by AWS team. So it's a Python micro framework actually for AWS. And it allows you very quickly create and deploy applications that use Amazon API Gateway and actually AWS Lambdas. To install Chalice, you have to do only 2 commands. Pip install Chalice will install this package, and you create new project with command Chalice new project, and then it will create such structure very similar to Django for now, where you can see app.py application, gitignore, and all needed files. If we will look into the code base of app.py, you can see that it is very similar to Flask, for instance, with easy routing, with functions, and with application initializations. So I'd like it, and I tried to dive deeper with Chalice. So first, the problem was how to run it locally, because it's not a good idea to deploy for every increase of your code base, deploy, test, and see what's going on. So Chalice gives us good opportunity to run Chalice local, and when you call localhost 8000, you will receive response, hello world, very creative example, but it shows how it works. Then when first hello world application was running successfully local, I decided to deploy it for AWS. And also Chalice gives us an opportunity to do it quite easily in only 1 command, Chalice deploy. You can see it creates roles, it creates deployment package, it creates Lambda function, it installing first time deployments, and it returns actually the URL of API which we can call in future. Let's call it. Of course I prepare it before, because I'm a very optimistic guy and I'm afraid that something will go wrong on the presentation. So this screenshot, but believe me, it's a real screenshot. As we can see, it works actually from Amazon, because we receive X, AMS, N, and other headers with the response. Of course, it's not very interesting to create only hello world application and to call root URL. we have to use URL parameters and other things, well, that at least I was used to do in Django. So Chalice also provides this opportunity. For instance, if you want to greet someone, let's create a greet function and pass the parameter name in URL that will be cached and displayed as a return result. Again, I made a deploy and prepared with response. So you can see now if we will call Rinat, actually it's me, we will receive a greeting, hello Rinat. So now we can do a bit more tricky things and more interesting. But it happens that time after time developers make mistakes, and it's good to track them and to find what's going on, what's wrong, and it's not always a good option to go to CloudFront and to read all logs and click a lot of links. So by default debugging is turned off in Chalice, but you can enable it easily in one step. You can just set flag debug true, and then you can add any logs, for instance debug log, error log, and other things that you need to debug your application. So not only CloudWatch now we need, moreover we can easily import them into a separate file. So in this example we can get logs during running the application in console. In this example we can retrieve logs by command chalice logs, and in this command we can import it into the separate file and then work this separate file, at least look for tail of this file, not all. Not a good idea to keep your code only in app.py, and when you want to do something more interesting than hello Rinat, you need to use more files. To implement it in Chalice, you have to create Chalice lib folder, which actually is a Python package, and then you can put any other parts of your code here. For instance, I moved greeting function to utils.py, which I placed into Chalice lib, and now my code looks something like this. I use Chalice lib utils, importing greetings, and then I just run function greeting name, which also will return hello Rinat. Then, when we created different files, there is time to think about third-party packages, because not everybody wants to develop everything from scratch. It's better to use something good packages. So if you're a lucky man, Chalice gives you an opportunity to use requirements.txt, and it will install any packages it finds, or it can build compatible wheels for. But for instance, if you try to install SQL Alchemy, you are not lucky guy, because Chalice cannot do it automatically, and you have to build wheels by yourself. And this thing can be tricky, because you have to install image of Amazon Linux, you have to install Python 3.6, you have to install virtual environment, and then you have built wheels manually, import it to this package, and only then SQL Alchemy will run, for example. It took for me for about half a day, so I was not happy with this part of Chalice, but I hope they will fix it as soon as possible, because project actually quite fast evolving, and a lot of commits during a month or a week, so I hope it will work. This, for example, this is an example of wheels that I built for SQL Alchemy. I unpack it into vendor folder, and only then I was be able to connect my application to database, for instance for Amazon RDS. Well, it's only more essential functions of Chalice. Of course it has much more. For instance, additional routing, where you can specify method, will it be get or post or put. Also you can work with request objects and with metadata. You can work with content types, response object, very similar to Django REST framework, for instance. You can work with scheduled events, of course. Of course, you can implement pipeline for continuous development and even more. what I didn't use for now, but I'm going to. So let's take a look for a live example that I implemented with AWS Lambdas. It was a simple chatbot which works mostly with cryptocurrency. You can retrieve rate of some currency. For instance, it will be BTC USD. You can set alerts. You can set alerts for this cryptocurrency, and the bot will inform you when rate of this pair will lower or above that you define. So I hope this first this first alert will never be triggered, and I hope the second one will be triggered as soon as possible. Also, if you not enjoy cryptocurrency or think it is a bubble, you can get a new fact about Chuck Norris. So everything works on AWS Lambdas, and you can also add it to your Telegram by looking for adware bot. I also very optimistic guy and prepare these screenshots in case bot will not work for now, but everything passed well. So let's take a look for more interesting things as for developers as into a code base. For this project, you see the directory. There are much more directories here. So in Chalice Sleep, we do not use only utils as I showed before. We use another packages for configuration, for database connection, for services, and for Telegram bot, for instance. I also wrote some tests. It's not very convenient for now in this case because I actually test a pure Python package and there are not any integration into Chalice for now. In this utils folder, I implemented Docker file to create this AWS Linux image and to build wheels and other common files. So if we will look to file app.py in this project, you can see that now we can use different methods. For instance, this index function works only with method post. I restricted content types for application JSON. I added logging for debug that writes me when indexing is started. Also, I use bot processing class that was imported from Chalice Sleep. And also, I use scheduled events that retrieves for me currency rates, cryptocurrency rates, fiat currency rates, and also a scheduled event that sends information to subscribers. It's very convenient and very easy to integrate it, and it works quite stable. So if we will take a look into Lambda's function that Chalice created for us, we can see that it created not so much Lambda functions as we saw on code. It creates only adware bot dev sense alert, the main adware bot, get tickers info, and get currencies. Hello world, it was example by previous, not by this object. So the main cons of Chalice is that it packages all the code base into one Lambda function that can become huge time after time. That's why you cannot develop full production applications with Chalice for now. You can only split Lambda functions if they are scheduled or if you decorate it as pure Lambda. But it has fast cycle of development, because when I started to learn the Chalice and Telegram bot API documentation, it took for me about 2 hours before I stuck with database. But Chuck Norris facts worked after 2 hours. So it's quite fast. It's very well suitable for small functions that have async nature, for instance, email sending, wiring images, some other scheduled event if you don't want face-to-memory leak with Celery can do usually. Also, it's well documented and quite stable, because all documented functions works quite stable, but not all functions are implemented already. So personally, me don't like that it can support only Python 3.6 because we have some project on 3.5 and we cannot port it to AWS Lambda, some parts of it. First we have port 3.5 to 3.6, be aware that it is stable enough, and only then we can implement Lambdas. One huge Lambda I already mentioned. So building wheels, it's a pain actually, but I succeeded, and after pain it was a great happiness. And the other thing that it has still small community. So one of my goal of this talk is to increase this community because I really enjoy Chalice, and I don't want that on forums only Chalice creators answer my questions. I want the community grow. So thank you for your attention. Any questions? Yeah.
So what are actually the requirements of what you can actually install? So that you can blur images, that's like you recommended, like it's suited for that. But would you be able to install ImageMagick or something like that?
You can install Pillow, for instance, yeah, easily. Actually, with requirements, which is very good.
And that's all out of the box.
Yeah, you just enter Pillow into requirements.txt, then run Chalice deploy, and it will install, and you can use Pillow as usual on your Python application.
Oh, but what's the? You probably have like a limited amount of time that a process can run there. How long can a process claim? How many? Is it seconds, minutes?
I don't. Actually, I never exceeded with this small simple functionality. I just saw that our Lambda's function grow up and up. That's why I did not create such huge code to test the limits. I never exceeded limits, so, but I don't know what are they.
Maximum is 5 minutes.
Yeah, it's a combination with the RAM.
Yeah, I mean, you can set is 5 minutes maximum. 5 minutes maximum.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So you can set it on the function itself. Smaller timeout, so you don't pay too much, but maximum timeout is 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Before that is 30 seconds or so.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Any other questions for Rinat?
Okay.
Please give a round of applause.
Thank you.